Lena had always been drawn to old houses. There was something about the creaking floors, the worn-down walls, and the stories that seemed to echo in the silence. Growing up in a small town, Lena had spent many afternoons wandering the streets, exploring abandoned houses, and imagining the lives of the people who once lived there. But today was different. She wasn't just walking past another forgotten building. She had stumbled upon a house that seemed to have a life of its own. It was tucked away on the edge of town, hidden behind overgrown ivy and a rusty iron gate. The house was much larger than any she had seen before, its stone exterior darkened with age, but still standing strong against the test of time. The windows, though covered in dirt, seemed to glimmer faintly in the morning sun. Curiosity tugged at her, and without thinking, she pushed the gate open. It creaked loudly, a sound that seemed to welcome her into the mystery that lay ahead. She stepped carefully through the yard, her feet brushing against the tall grass that swayed in the wind. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and the faint scent of something floral, though there were no flowers in sight. As she approached the front door, Lena noticed a strange feeling settling over her. It was as if the house was watching her, waiting for her to take the next step. She paused, her hand hovering over the old brass doorknob, then turned it slowly. To her surprise, the door opened without resistance, revealing a dark hallway inside. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. It was as if the world outside had faded away, leaving only the soft whisper of her breath and the occasional creak of the wooden floors beneath her feet. The hallway stretched ahead, lined with doors that led to unknown rooms. Lena hesitated for a moment, but then, driven by a mix of excitement and something deeper, she stepped inside. The air inside was cold, and the walls seemed to close in around her as she made her way down the hall. She could hear her footsteps echoing, each one louder than the last, until they blended into the silence that enveloped her. She opened the first door she came to, revealing a large room filled with dusty furniture. There were bookshelves along the walls, their contents long forgotten, and a grand chandelier hanging from the ceiling, its crystals sparkling faintly in the dim light. The room was full of old, forgotten things. A fireplace stood against one wall, its hearth empty and cold. But what caught Lena's attention was the large wooden desk in the center of the room, covered in papers and strange artifacts. She approached the desk, her fingers brushing lightly over the objects scattered across its surface. There were old letters, yellowed with age, and a small box made of tarnished silver. She opened the box, but inside, instead of a treasure, there was a single small key. It was intricately designed with swirls and patterns carved into its surface, and it seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. Lena picked it up, turning it over in her hand. It felt heavier than she expected, and as she held it, she could almost hear a faint whispering in the air, as if the house itself was speaking to her. She didn't know why, but something told her that this key was important. With the key in her hand, she continued to explore the house, her sense of curiosity growing with each step. She moved through rooms filled with old furniture and forgotten memories, but nothing seemed quite as intriguing as the key. Finally, after what felt like hours of searching, Lena came across a door at the end of the hall. It was different from the others. It was older, its wood darker and more worn, with a heavy iron lock fastened to it. The door seemed to call out to her, and she knew instinctively that this was where the key belonged. With trembling hands, she inserted the key into the lock. The mechanism clicked, and the door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase that spiraled down into the darkness below. Lena hesitated for a moment, her heart racing, but then she stepped forward, the faint light from the house above barely illuminating the steps. The stairs led her into a basement, but it was unlike any basement she had ever seen. The walls were covered in strange symbols, some of them familiar, others completely foreign. The air was thick with the scent of something ancient, and the temperature seemed to drop the further she descended. At the bottom of the stairs, there was another door, this one even more imposing than the last. This time, there was no keyhole, no way to open the door. But as Lena approached, the key in her hand began to hum, almost as if it were alive. She felt a surge of energy run through her, and without thinking, she reached out and placed the key against the door. To her amazement, the door slowly began to open, revealing a room bathed in a strange, ethereal light.